know, she's bound for Berkeley in a little over a month. That's really a wonderful thing, and best of good fortune there. So,
Thank you.
so, so, Philip, you, if I remember correctly, went to Columbia.
Well, grad school, that's one of my grad schools. I mean, I have a master's from Columbia and also from Xavier University of Cincinnati. That's where I have my MBA. And, and then my undergrad is from Queens College, which is part of City University of New York.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, and so I went to a small college in central Massachusetts called Nichols College, and hit the dean's list, but didn't do any graduate work. Was editor of the college paper and DJ of the college station, and
So you've been following in the footsteps of your original pathway.
well, I figured that was the safest thing for me to do rather than try something new. No, I wish I had this energy after when I just needed to settle down. Ron, welcome again, and take over from here. Tell us why you think this is a good topic today, Gen Z.
Yeah, Natalie, of course, I'm interested in more listening than talking, but I'm very interested in learning from you.
Mhm.
All of us on this call have significantly more life experience than you do. And so, with that time transition, we know things have changed, technology has advanced, which is good. But then there are other things that uh, maybe you would perceive us as not adapting to you or whatever it may be. And so I think there are some things that remain unchanged with time. That's fundamental values. But of course, technology changes. But I'm very interested in learning from you and how we can maybe best adapt to each other. Because, Natalie, in my opinion, there's a definite place for you, but yeah, there may be some, who knows, chronological and subtle differences. We just need to learn to adapt.
Well, she's going to.
Yes.
I think if I remember correctly, you're going to right now. You think your major will be anthropology.
Yes, that's my major.
What
Oh,
does that
okay.
mean? What does
Um,
anthropology mean?
it's basically the study of human beings, and there's four elements of anthropology. There's four fields. So you have biological anthropology, archaeology, cultural anthropology, and linguistic anthropology. Um, and so with biological, you're looking at like the human body and genetics, um, and evolution. With archaeology, you're looking at artifacts, things that have been left by people. With cultural anthropology, you are looking at different cultural structures and how like societies a little bit are made up. It kind of pairs well with sociology. And then with linguistics, you're looking at how language changes over time and is shaped by people.
My
Boy,
my my daughter is a professor of cultural anthropology
Oh,
at,
that's lovely.
at the University of North Carolina,
Mhm.
and she's in Chapel Hill. She's a tenured professor.
no, that's great. I didn't know that. Welcome, Ken Lloyd. You're on mute.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt all of you. Morning, everybody.
Good
Welcome. Glad
morning.
you
Good
could join us.
morning.
Sorry about I screwed up on the time zone thing.
What
So,
aspect of anthropology will you be focusing on, Natalie?
Cultural. That's what
Oh,
interests me the
okay. Oh,
most.
good. I,
so what does that mean? Just about cultures, learning about
Um,
backgrounds, and
yes,
I
that's
don't
part
know.
of it. That's part of it, but I would say the other part of it, which I find to be more interesting, is looking at patterns and how you have these different types of things that you see throughout different cultures, and how, for example, I took a class on magic, witchcraft, and religion. So it's looking at like the religious side of culture and like tradition. Um, and in that, we were looking at, for example, like the idea of like some sort of like witch or mage or druid in a culture. Where is that seen in different cultures throughout the world? The same concept. So that's what I find really interesting about it.
So you just mentioned Druid. Now,
Hmm.
is that a religion?
That's like a person, I think specifically within like Celtic cultures, I think, where basically someone is like they are kind of in with magic and they use like earth-based magic. Um, that's what I can describe.
Ken, welcome.
Thank
Uh,
you.
have you any experience with Druidism?
Not really.
I
No.
think just to build on what Natalie is saying, and for everybody's information, unless you already know this, a number of people who are in the cross-cultural area are 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 learned in cultural anthropology.
Yes.
So, and in fact, one of the things that when I do a talk, I'm going to blend in some of the aspects of that cultural anthropology piece into the piece that I'll be talking about in terms of Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
that's really good. Thank you. Philip, do you want to use my screen share and do your thing?
Okay.
This program is going to end at 9:30, which is 27 minutes from now. FYI. Philip, stage is yours.
Trying to connect it.
Okay, great. Looks like it's going to work.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go through some pieces and why are we here? This whole topic is extremely important, and especially when we look at where leadership comes from. Yeah, leadership is going to come from these Gen Zs. That's why we really need to understand it. And as Ron was saying earlier, there are a number of us who are Gen X and et cetera, baby boomers, and to be able to understand the issues and condition and values of new people who are coming into an organization is important because it's going to set the framework, for how organizations will proceed from here. So what I want to do is to talk about it, first of all, just to understand the difference between without going through each of the gens, but just the more recent one before Gen Z, because Gen Z is new to a lot of us here, but we're still trying to figure out millennials. Yeah, and so millennials you could see are born, between 1981 and 96, and they're either 28 to 44 years old. And we spend a lot of time in organizations talking about millennials. And there is a difference between them and those who are Gen Zs. Those are born between 1997 and 2012. Yeah, and who are now, well, who are aged 13 to 28, but the working age is 16 to 28. And that's a very important dynamic to be able to understand. And more important, is how can we look at this from a global perspective? And this is where, Natalie, I bring in the piece that sometimes people would be so focused on, well, you're Gen Z, but we need to understand the cultural focus also. And so this whole issue is not one dimensional. It's multi-dimensional in understanding, especially since I have worked in over 60 countries around the world. I have a familiarity, with the differences, between individuals who might be in one age group and another. So I'm going to talk about this pragmatically from three perspectives. That is how Gen Zs differ from millennials, because that's the population that many of us are dealing with more than anything else. And then also, I want to talk about it from the standpoint of effective organizational approaches. And what I'm going to do is and also key development strategies. And I will be weaving in there a number of cultural components so that way we can understand what the difference or the similarity is in how Gen Zs approach a situation versus others who are in the organization. The problem that we have in organizations is that, well, we think there's a real simplistic way of approaching things. Oh, well, we have Gen Zs now. All we have to do is just understand them. No, we still need to understand how individuals are similar or different and from one part of the world to another. So I'll touch upon that in my topic. So the first piece is that understanding the difference between those who are native digital natives versus digital adopters. And in fact, what I like about this piece is that when I started my career at IBM, I wasn't even I was beginning to be a digital adopter. This was in the 1968, uh, and which might seem like ancient history to some of us here, but maybe not to others who are on this broadcast here. But there is a difference and between those and people who have said the only way that they know how to work with Gen Zs is that they've never had a world without smartphones or without social media, and uh, millennials, they adapted to it pretty quickly, but that's not the case with Gen Zs. And this is true across cultures, whether you're talking about Maria in Brazil or Hiroshi, who might be in Japan, the same type of situation. And the other thing is that the issue of being more pragmatic versus idealistic, Gen Zs tend to be more financially cautious and career oriented, especially after witnessing economic uncertainty. I saw this particular piece coming into play a lot when after I left working for Colgate-Palmolive, after 20 years there. I took a hiatus and was the chief human resource officer for the Clinton Foundation. And one of the things that I established there was an actually a 401k program, and also you have a 403 program, which is for a lot of not-for-profits. And what was important about this is looking at the number of people who decided and it was based on age. A number of the younger people, the Gen Zs, were the ones who were adopting and participating in those programs more than others who had been there for a period of time. In fact, if you look across the board, not only at that situation, but look at now the participation in 401k programs, the Gen Zs participate in it more than others. Some people think that that's not the case, but there's a certain pragmatism versus just being idealistic, which you will see with Gen Zs. Ron, I don't know if you're speaking if you're muted. If you're trying to say something, I can't I can't hear you. Ron, you're muted. If you were trying to ask a question, okay. Were you trying to ask a question or make a comment? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Philip. I was conducting other activities and I'll be right back with you.
Oh, okay. No, no problem. No, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't want to leave you out. I'm sorry. Um, but that's important, especially these two pieces, and in fact, when I go to the other piece, and whether I'm talking about a span from Ahmed, who is in Egypt, or Sophia, who is in Mexico, you will see that same type of mindset there. And so, in fact, when I was developing subsidiary operations throughout Russia and Eastern Europe, Romania, Poland, Czech Republic. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, that was my main activity as VP of HR, and that is setting up new businesses. And so I had a lot of work that I did in Russia, and there was a difference between. I can't do that work there now, but certainly there at that time, I was able to develop full-fledged operations and take a place like Romania, where you had individuals who were in who came up in a planned economy, and now they're moving to a market economy. And so the younger people were able to adapt more quickly than individuals who have been in those countries for a longer period of time. And so that had a lot to do with how I was able to actually develop careers and jobs for people and the jobs that they would participate in. Very important for people to understand that when you're looking at international development and from a global basis. And then the other thing is shorter attention spans. You know, these will have average of 8 seconds versus 12 seconds. And then if I go up the span to other generations, baby boomers and all, they don't have any attention span at all. They, and so that they're one of the reasons why TikTok and Instagram, and also even why AI has taken on a lot of caring, and people really want to understand what's happening in those areas, is because of the short, concise communication that is endemic of that particular age group. And in fact, we saw that you would see that whether you're Raj in India, or Emma in Canada, it was the same type of situation. And and I really was able to put a number of pieces together organizationally based on that. And so, for example, I found that in Nigeria, matter of fact, they value very much mobile learning. And I was able to, by doing some of my work in Nigeria, also in South Africa, and also in Kenya, where mobile learning, people were using mobile devices more than others in other age groups. And so, they can be in those areas, and, they're driving a motorcycle or whatever to get from one place to another. They might be living in a very, I'll call it a hut or something, the different, not in big high span type of housing. However, from the standpoint of mobility and communication, it was very strong. And so therefore, I was working with the project to actually reach out to consumers more effectively because of their ability to use mobile learning, and in order to understand what's happening. In China, they really prefer Chen in China, for example. He would prefer tutorials over written communications. And this really has an implication for individuals who, and matter of fact, when I get to it later, when I'll talk about the type of changes that need to occur in organizations, it's really in people who are developing these programs. Mateo, he really, in Chile, he really seeks employers that have really clear social responsibility. Amina, she prioritizes organizations that have diverse learning and leadership. And let me go from this to talk about effective organizational approaches. And so you can see that from an organizational approach, micro learning and having learning that takes place in modules as opposed to having day long, not only week long type of seminars, um, that's not going to appeal to Gen Zs because they have a very short attention span. They want short, focused type of content. And so people who are like in Priya in Singapore or Lucas in Brazil, uh, they're going to prefer short micro learning type of pieces. And so people have to move away from these long courses where they're going to have people sitting around for long periods of time. You can have that, but you have to have a micro learning component to it. Additionally, when I look at the issue, or moving to my right, your left, continuous feedback is important. And so having regular check-ins is preferred as opposed to annual reviews. So a number of people, they say, okay, 12 months, I'm going to tell people how they're doing. Well, what needs to happen is that you have to have continuous learning that is taking place and continuing feedback that is going from one part to another. And so, whether you happen to be Seoul and Stockholm or wherever you may happen to be, that continuous feedback is an important piece and a component for how you manage and work with individuals who are Gen Zs. Also, if you look at purpose driven work, meaningful contributions, why are we doing this? Not what we're doing is going to be valued more by Gen Z employees. And so whether you're Kwame in Ghana or Isabella in Colombia, that's going to be the same case. And so you can see that that is something that can be developed so that way you can get more, build a more inclusive organization and one where you're going to get more productivity. People are going to be bored in an organization. They're going to say, well, if I want to go somewhere else. It's not a surprise to people, those who are also on this who are learned in HR will know that after a while a person gets bored. Newer younger people, they're getting bored, unless we're able to do something in program work that's meaningful for them. And also having tech integrated systems is going to be extremely important. Digital coaching systems that would be embraced by people all over the world, that's going to be in place. These are new type of organizational approaches. When we talk about Gen Zs, this is what we need to program, and this is how we need to manage differently. Let me go to two other pieces. I have like two other slides here, and then we can talk some. And that is that having personalized learning paths are important, being able to customize training that allows individuals who are Gen Zs to work at their own pace. And so whether you're Aisha in Malaysia focusing on data analytics or Miguel in Spain, that's going to be the case. Having transparent communications and feedback, that's going to be valued across all cultures. And so whether you're in team meetings in Tokyo or virtual collaborations in Nairobi, Kenya, Gen Zs expect this type of transparent communication. And we see the debacle that companies are going through with this whole thing, trying to understand, especially when we went through the pandemic, they were not really understanding why people were saying, well, I want to have a job, but also there are other things that are important to me. And so having some type of work-life integration, something that is flexible from a standpoint of the working career and respecting cultural differences, and by cultural differences not talking about just race or ethnicity, but also the fact that men and women are looking at the organization in a very different way. That's a cultural distinction that needs to be understood, and people aren't understanding it as much, and that's why you're beginning to lose people. And so having like with Ramadan and Fatima really wants that type of accommodation in Indonesia, Diwali, and Arjan, he likes that in India. Respecting those type of differences really makes a big thing. Let me go to the last slide, and then we can have some conversation. Um, the most important piece is that what we need to do when we have Gen Zs coming into the organization, we need to train leaders and managers how to manage differently. It's not training the Gen Zs. It's not the millennial. It's not them. It's us. We need to develop coaching initiatives for star Gen Zers, because these are individuals who, as soon as they come in, you hired them because you thought that they were a star, And what you need to do is to have that type of situation in place. When I started my career at Procter and Gamble when I was younger, the one thing that they did, which was really very good, is that they had a coaching program in place for me. And you're not waiting for the executives to be in place before you develop these programs. Develop it for individuals coming in the door. And so I stayed there for 8 years. Moved back to New York from Cincinnati, but would have stayed there longer. Loved the career, loved what I was doing, didn't hate it at all. But my coaching, I attribute to helping me, and also the mentoring strategies that were in place were important. Throughout my career at Colgate, I have had all the way through being a corporate executive, in addition to being a VP, I had mentors that were in place to help guide me. And developing the last 2 points that I want to make is that developing a retention program for Gen Zs is important. Sometimes, as HR executives, we wait too long to have a retention program in place. Develop a program that has flexibility so that individual can see a career path ahead of time. It's important to have one of the things that I developed at when I was at the Clinton Foundation. I had 6 different, instead of maybe 3 levels of management in place, or 3 levels in the organization. I had 6 different levels, so that way individuals could progress based upon a number of other factors that it actually saw them doing things differently and getting rewarded for the work that they were doing. Because if not, what they would do, they would go somewhere else. So if you don't develop it, especially organizations where you don't have a lot of career paths, it's important to develop that. And then having a targeted type of a compensation program. Don't just work with the old antiquated ways of doing compensation, which many of us grew up with. Have it where you have built-in type of incentives in place so that people can have different compensations that work with them all along the way. So those are the main things I wanted to talk about. If people want to know more about how they can rebrand themselves so that they can be better than they believe, this is one of the things that I focus on my book, which also,
I'm
and then
ending this
how you can
meeting
be in
now.
touch,
So go down and start the car.
and that's
Yeah, Philip, thank you
if I
very
find out.
much. Thank you very much, Philip. That was a really dynamite, high speed presentation, and I really want to welcome you to come back, all of you, uh, and invite, if each of you can invite somebody you know who might like to participate in the next edition on the same topic. We'll have a lot more time. I I need to uh, take Joanne to the doctor, uh, and we have a 10 a.m. meeting appointment 35 minutes from now. So I have to end this in the next 4 minutes. I'm sorry. Philip, that was just absolutely terrific. There's so much there. And I want to say that you have just beautiful experience in so many different high level places. Your perspective is really valuable to me, and I know to everybody else. Ken Lloyd, would you like to sum up or say something in this 1 minute?
Well, first and foremost, I hope that your wife is okay, and I certainly don't want to delay your taking her to a needed appointment. Obviously, Philip, this is so informative, absolutely brilliant, and based on, I can see your analysis as well as your experience. And you mentioned continuous feedback. That is like at the heart of today's evaluations for managers, leaders to understand the importance of coaching their employees, working with them, regular communication. When you meet with them regularly through continuous feedback, you are providing them with info on their past performance, as well as what we had called, feed forward. Let's talk about development and growth and plans and strategies and timing, all of that. I think your presentation is excellent, and I look forward to taking a look at your book as well. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you very much for the feedback. I appreciate it.
Ron Cooper?
That was really well done, Philip. I appreciate it. Some of that of what you said is for me is common sense. But in the context of we need training as a C-suite kind of person, to me, Philip, that's an HR function. Am I processing and thinking correctly that you're the person to turn to when I say we need to learn how to adapt to the Gen Zs?
Thank you, Ron.
No, that was a question, Phil. If I feel that as a C-suite executive, we need training, I'm going to turn to HR for that training. Am I going to the right direction, to the right people?
No, I think that that's the right way to go as a
Yeah.
starting point. And
And I
certainly,
would say just very quickly in the context of time, Natalie, I'm very interested in your perspective, another topic for another occasion. Two takeaways from this: the Natalies of the world are not risk takers, and get to the bottom line. Don't drag it out. And so, Natalie, I'm very interested if that accurately portrays you and some of the Gen Zers you know.
I think so.
So your perspective is extremely valuable, and I thank you for your time, Natalie. And I invite you to come back in the next edition. I'll try to set it up sometime in the next 7 days or 10 days, if that's good for everybody. Give me some feedback, please, and I will move on it. I apologize again for the brevity, but in the context of Gen Z, that's what it is. Thank you all.
okay, good. Take care. Hope all
Thank
is well.
Well,
you.
be well.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.